It's -5 at 7:36. Let's head back to the BT studio.
Thank you very much, Mike. And Jim Clemmer's with us here. Moose on the Table is his 6th book?
It is.
6th book.
Number
Congratulations.
6. Yes,
Good
thank
for
you.
you. This one is called Moose on the Table, and I'll just read it here so people get a sense. A novel approach to communication at work. And this is a novel, literally. Tell us the difference between these and other books.
Well, my other books were a little more traditional how-to leadership management kinds of books. And my last couple books, I started using a bit of fiction, a few fables kind of woven in there, got a taste for it, and then decided to go all out here and take a story approach.
And you get to read about Peter, a manager who's in rough shape, very rough shape, and that is because of the moose on the table. So people understand the title. What do you mean by moose on the table?
Well, it is similar to Elephant in the Room, and
Yep.
it's the idea that there's an issue that everyone knows is there, but is being avoided for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it generally means that more moose show up or have babies, and just things usually get worse.
And explain to me, how big an issue is that in your experience in the workplace?
It's huge, and I think the ironic thing in today's world is we have lots of technology to communicate, and yet there's less communication in many workplaces because people are talking at each other or emailing at each other and not really talking with each other.
And you talk about, Pete goes through it a lot, where we're all sitting around a table and he's on his BlackBerry or he's emailing people and he's talking and there's big things going on and nobody is saying anything. Why don't people say, hey, there's a moose on the table?
Well, there's a variety of reasons. Fear is a big one, and that's one of the key themes of the book is that what I think of as a continuum of courage and fear. And oftentimes we give in to fear that I'll stand out, fear that I'll look like I'm not a team player, or that I'll be ostracized, or the boss, because Pete, I give him a bully boss, and so there's lots of fear in that workplace.
And so what do you say? Well, okay, Pete or anyone, if I'm watching right now and I say, I have a boss that drives me nuts, what do you do?
Well, you usually can't fire them. So I think it's either you live with it, and because sometimes it's maybe not that bad, and so you find ways to work around, or you try to figure out, are there ways that I can influence upward? Is there something that keeping the boss awake at night that I can link into somehow? Or it may be in the end you don't want to be a victim, so maybe it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to find some other situation or some other boss.
Another moment of courage, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
tough to do, though, isn't it?
It is. It's much easier to be a victim to, well, I talk about in the book, living in Pity City. It's easy to be there, or Frown Town, and just kind of mumble and complain and blame everybody else and not take any action yourself. That's the easy way out.
Well, and you tell one of the stories that Pete goes through is he's at a meeting, terrible meeting, and then nobody says anything, and then a few of them meet at the bar and spend the next 2 hours complaining.
Yeah, that's in the chapter, The Dread Poets Society, and poet is, well, politely, it's Pee on Everything Till Sunrise Society, but that's the group that gets together at Rocky and Bullwinkle's, and now they complain, now they name the moose, now they talk about all the issues, and in my mind, that is the sort of height of cowardice. That I won't talk about it in the meeting, I won't talk about it to the people that I'm really upset with, but then I'll go and talk with my buddies at the bar about all the problems and complain and whine and chew about it all.
Similarly, and Pete in the book goes through it, your marriage can be the same way, your personal life, your physical health, it's all the same, but nobody's dealing with the issue.
Yeah, it's all interconnected, generally. So if I'm not dealing with issues in my workplace, it typically means I'm not dealing with issues elsewhere in my life. And that's part of what I was trying to show, is that you really can't separate a lot of this stuff.
What do you do if you're the guy, and there's a character in the book who's the guy, who says, okay, I'm going to say something. So he shows up at the meeting and he goes, all right, I've looked at everything, I've listed the whole thing, and I know we've all talked about this at the bar, and now I'm going to say it, and everyone shuts up. What do you do?
So what do you do if you're him?
Yeah.
Well, I think he took the courageous step. So he did the best that he could do, and there's probably not much he can do to encourage others other than leading by that example. And it is about picking your timing, and in his case, he was new to the team, and I was kind of showing him how he didn't quite pick his timing that well, but at least he tried.
And would you encourage people getting up this morning with a situation they don't like to at least say something?
Yeah, it may not be at the meeting itself, but if you're not saying anything and you're continuing to just let the situation go on, you're actually enabling it. You're helping the moose. And so there is no middle ground here, I think. But it may be that you have to talk one-on-one with somebody else. Maybe a couple of you get together, try to figure out how to approach the situation, maybe talk with the boss or whoever it may be on a one-on-one, because in a group setting may not be the right place. But don't just let it go.
What if you're the other side? What if you're the boss or you're the manager and you have this team that you can't get going? It's an issue.
And maybe you're growing antlers and not even realizing it. Yeah, that is a big problem as well. And it's part of what we discuss. Pete later on begins to realize that his own leadership is part of the issue and starts to look for ways to get the perceptions of others out. So it may be through surveys, it may be through having an outsider like a consultant, someone come in and do some focus groups. There's a variety of ways you can create a safe environment to allow people to name the moose or name what the issues are.
Because that's a tough move too, isn't it?
It is, and it takes courage to hear that as well.
It's all in the book, and if you want more information, there's also a website give you information on how you can get more info on the book and what else is going on in Jim's life. Moose on the Table. MooseOnTheTable.com is the website. Of course, it's the book. The book available at better bookstores near you. Thanks for coming in, Jim.
Great to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you with us here.
Happy hunting.
Yes, thank you. Let's go out there and kill some moose in the metaphorical sense. We're going to go for a break, and Andrew's going to say it's warming up a bit for the weekend.
But this wall, it will fall if it's the last thing.